YouTube, what is going on? It is your boy James with Make an Opening, and today we're doing a full regional tier list and meta breakdown style of video. We're going to be using full PQ metadata, the last few weekends of tournament results, matchup spreads across the most played decks, and current trend analysis heading into the next major event, which is the final major event pre-rotation, Milwaukee, the regionals. Right now, the format has one defining truth. The Han Solo ecosystem, what I've been calling it, isn't just popular. It's a bunch of different decks, a bunch of, it's not just Han 1 and Han 2, it's Han 1, blah, 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 Han 2, blah, blah, blah. So today's goal is simple: identify what decks actually have tournament winning spreads, build a tier list based purely on data, not vibes. Simple stuff. Before we get into it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know downstairs in the comment section what you plan on running at Milwaukee if you're going, or just your next store showdown or PQ. What do you think of the current results and the current meta? Do you think it's fun? Do you think it's balanced? Do you think it's healthy? Also, if you need to get any tokens or buy some cards for your upcoming deck, check out all the links to my partners downstairs in the description. We got Marshall with Premier Games, and we have TCG Player. So yeah, all that out of the way. Let's get into the fun stuff. This might be a longer video. Strap in. So right now, roughly a quarter to nearly a third of the competitive meta is concentrated around a core group of decks. Those decks are going to be Yoda DV, Han2 ECL, Cad Bane Tarkintown. We have Han2 Blue Force, we have Vader4 Yellow, and we have Sabine ECL. Those 6 decks comprise, about a quarter to a third of the current meta in terms of raw meta share. And when we include all the Han variants, you're realistically preparing for Han 2, which is Han2 ECL, Han2 Blue Force, Han2 Blue. Then we have Han 1, which is Han1 Yellow, Han1 Green. And now, over the last couple weekends, we're seeing Han1 Tarkintown, thanks to Lego Pizza from Botha Network. So what does this mean? Basically, you're extremely likely to play multiple Han decks in one tournament run. So the best tournament deck right now is not going to be a deck with the highest win rate. It's not going to be a deck with the best single matchup. It's not going to be the deck with the highest top cut conversion alone. We're going to be looking at broad positive spreads, very little bad matchups if possible, and decks that have strong performances into the Han ecosystem, which is what I've been calling it for the last few days now, just because it used to just be Han 1 and Han 2. Now there's 6 total decks whenever you say those 2 leaders. It's a lot to have to worry about. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is some meta trends from the last 2 to 3 weekends. Trend number 1 is going to be what I was just mentioning, the Han ecosystem. Han used to be an archetype, let alone 1 or 2. There used to just be, maybe it was just Han 2 ECL and Han 1 Green / Han 1 ECL. Now we see, Han 1 Tarkintown coming out as, a premier aggro list alongside Han 2 ECL. Han 2 Blue and Han 2 Blue Force are more mid-range style, more or less the same deck, but you get more HP out of the Blue or even Colossus versus Blue Force. We have less force energy there. You get the tempo decks with Han 1 Yellow. Han 1 Yellow is really good, and it's been exploding over the last few weeks. And like I mentioned, Han 1 Green / maybe Han 1 ECL, Han 1 DV. It's mainly just the standard green 30. Those 6 decks are very important, and they matter a ton because you can't just tech for Han anymore. You need to be more flexible and have more flexible game plans into a wider variety of Han decks, plural, aka the Han ecosystem. Because of said Han ecosystem, and with having 3 different, or even sometimes 4, depending on how you want to look at it, of these decks being Han 2 ECL or Han 2 Blue or Blue Force, Han 2, we've been seeing a rise in Cad Bane and Tarkintown decks as a whole, but the one that's been getting the most traction and best footing in the current meta is Cad Bane. The representation is going up week by week because Cad Bane is strong in the mid-range, because the current build is the Cad Bane weenie build where you try to open with 2 1-drops. You punish decks that are slow to set up, and you're good into several different Han builds, which we'll take a look into the matchups a little bit later. One thing with Cad Bane is it has volatility, so it's made top cut 34 times in this current meta, but Cad Bane Tarkintown has only won 6 PQ/events, topping way more than it actually wins. So a little bit of volatility there, but it has some really good matchups, and we're going to be talking a lot more about Cad Bane. And a little bit, another one of the trends that I wanted to mention was Yoda DV. It is a very consistent performer, and it's actually been getting, after it tapered off over the last couple weeks, it's actually starting to heat back up a little bit. It doesn't dominate with, spiky performances, and it's not super flashy, but it has a very excellent spread, which again we'll look at in a second. It has solid late game inevitability. Once you flip and hit that turn, Yoda is in a game of its own, and it doesn't really just automatically lose into much of anything. Yoda DV is very much like what you look for in a deck that will win regionals, and I have it very, very, very high on my tier list that we're going to be getting into later on in the video. Yoda DV is a serious contender, and also the deck that I'm going to be considering, the Sleeping Giant. And it would be very, very fitting for this deck to win the very last regional before she dips out of the rotation. That's going to be Sabine ECL. Honestly, Sabine ECL is really overperforming their representation. You're not seeing Sabine ECL everywhere, and it's really true here in the States. It's mainly a European deck, which is kind of funny because early on in Star Wars Unlimited, control decks like Palpatine were very much the European deck, and we were playing a lot of Sabine ECL here in the States. So it's actually performing really well relative to its play rate, and it's very strong into these greedy mid-range decks. And as we're seeing, the meta is very heavily mid-range, so it's a meta predator, honestly. It's not really a ladder favorite, but Sabine ECL could be pretty sneaky at regionals, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm being very serious when I say this. Sabine ECL, being like the staple, the queen of aggro ever since the game's launch in set 1 2 years ago, Sabine has a real shot here of taking down regionals. It's pretty cool. So now we're going to get officially into my tier list / rankings. And in order to do that, we're going to be going over into not only SWODB, where I have deck lists for 9 different decks that are going to be in the tier list, so you guys have something to base your deck off of or something to test against, but also we're going to be looking at SWO-based to look at matchup spreads. What the main things we're going to be looking for are those top 6, and then the Han ecosystem. So again, what are the top 6? We have Yoda DV, Han2 ECL, Han2 Blue Force. We have Vader Yellow, Sabine ECL, and the 6th one, which was Cad Bane tarkintown. I forgot it for a second. Not only do we want our deck to be good into the top 6, we also want it to fare pretty well into the Han ecosystem, which are, again, the 3 variants of both Han1 and Han2. So all in all, we're looking at how a deck does into 10 decks, because 2 of the Han ecosystem decks are in the top 6. So if your deck does good into 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, that's strong spread, and it's going to rank highly in our tier list. We're going to start with the S tier. In the first deck, we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorites to win regionals. We're going to be looking at Yoda DV. Okay, I have officially shrunken myself down into y'all's bottom left corner. The first deck we're going to be looking at is Yoda DV. As you guys can see, pretty standard. I mean, this deck has more or less been the same since it debuted with Wu taking it, post Beatle meta, whenever everyone was targeting Anakin DV. Yoda was the premier answer for Anakin DV, and it has stayed as a staple deck in the current meta. And honestly, it's a really strong deck. Honestly, it's like very high end on mid range. I would be calling Yoda DV more soft control versus mid range at this point, especially with the late game being as powerful as it is. You have your Kelleran Becks, your Luke Skywalkers, Home Ones, Bo-Katans, and in the sideboard you have extra copies of Kelleran Beck, Home One. You have Tranquility in the sideboard as well. You got some, even some hyperspace disasters in the side as well. Tranquility is this guy right here. So you can return a Republic unit from your discard pile to your hand. So it's pretty good with the Republic synergies that are in the deck. There's not really a whole lot, but there's some to make use of. This deck and all other deck lists are going to be downstairs in the description. They're going to be unlisted, so you can click them, take them, copy and paste them to your own SWODB, make changes. Think of these as good jumping off points for regionals, for testing, stuff like that. What we're going to be looking at now is matchups. So this screen first is going to be across the entire meta. So what we want to be looking at is Yoda into the entire meta. We might have a way, my scroll wheel doesn't work. Let me zoom this in a little bit. That might be too much. Let's just zoom it in just a little bit. Just because my scroll wheel doesn't work, guys, unfortunately, it's rough out here. So Yoda Data Vault, 57.6% win rate into the entire meta. As you guys can see, is 142 tournaments we're looking at. First thing we want to look at is the big six. So Yoda's one of them, so it's going to have a 50% win rate into itself, obviously. Han2 ECL, it doesn't have the best time. It's pretty fast, obviously, and it's a really good deck. So it's not beating that. Cad Bane tarkintown, it's like a good 60% win rate, so that's great. Han2 Blue Force, losing to that pretty badly. Honestly, basically considered an auto loss. It's beating Vader Yellow, it's beating Sabine ECL at about a 50% rate. And that is all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then itself. Yeah. So out of the 5, it's beating three of the 5. So 60% into the top 6. Into the actual overall Han ecosystem, well, it's losing to Han2 ECL, Han2 Blue Force, and probably Han2 Blue as well. It actually beats Han2 Blue. Han1, it beats Han1 Yellow, it beats Han1 Green at about a 50% rate. And this isn't the last 2 weeks, so Han1 tarkintown is a little bit too new. But as we can see, it does really well into the Han Solos as well. It's losing to 2 of them, and it's beating 3 of them. So again, 60%. If we go from here into the 2-week snapshot, and we take a look at Yoda, how has this data translated? Well, it looks like the Han Solo ECL matchup has gotten worse. It's also losing to Blue Force, same as always. But Han2 Blue, same, 55%. When you look at Han1, we are beating Yellow. We are beating Green. It's over. And we're not beating Green anymore. Han1 Red is still not here. Han1 tarkintown. Very little data on that deck, honestly. But then we look at the top 6, right? So tied against Yoda, so we're going to be looking at 5 of them. We lose to ECL. We beat Cad Bane tarkintown. We lose to Blue Force. We're losing to Sabine now, and we're beating Vader Yellow. So I don't know what's been going on with the Sabine Ren matchups. 44%. If we look at the matches, very little data against Sabine over the last 2 weeks, but it's not beating it. So it might be a little bit of a red flag for Yoda. But honestly, its entire win rate across everything, 56%. Yoda is definitely one of my key picks to watch to win it all at regionals. And again, taking a look at the list, very standard, not much changes, and link is in the description. I told you guys this is going to be a long video. The next deck that I have in S tier, another deck, we're going to be looking at Han1 Yellow. With all the yellow that's going to be talked about, I'm unfortunately not going to be playing Han2 or Kylo 2 Security Complex because yellow terrifies me. But Han1 Yellow has been making a huge splash. Over the last few weeks, its win rates are through the roof, which we'll be looking at, and its spreads are really good as well. Even with the meta like kind of shifting to target it just, the pressure that the deck provides with faith in your friends into shuttle or even turn 1 cheating out stuff like a Falcon, a stolen AT hauler, has proven tournament results. If you don't mind playing Han Solo, if you're not one of the people that say, oh, I don't want to play Han, I want to try to beat Han, if you want to play Han, play this deck. I think if any Han deck wins, it's going to be this one. I think this one has a better chance over Han2 ECL personally. So let's actually take a look at it from a matchup perspective. We get rid of Yoda. We go to Han. And we want to look for Han Yellow. Han1 Yellow, meta-wide, 65.8% match win rate. And, you know, not as many matches to look at as Yoda. 600, 700 net games. The deck is relatively new, but I like looking at percentages, right? So, as you can see, we have a sea of green Oh my god, it's sickening, right? Against the top 6 decks, it's losing to Yoda, so Yoda is helping it keep itself in check. 65% win rate into Han2 ECL. We have a 57% win rate into Han1 Green, 74% win rate into Cad Bane Tarkintown. That's huge. 70% win rate into Han2 Blue Force, 70% win rate into Vader Yellow, 60% win rate into Sabine ECL. This deck is beating everything. It's also cannibalizing the other Han decks. It's beating Han1 Green, it's beating Han2 Blue, Han2 Blue ECL. It's beating look at this. It's beating everything. It's losing to Yoda Green Force. It's losing to Quinlan Tarkintown. But it's absurd. Over the last 2 weeks, it's very similar because the deck's not super old. 69.7% win rate. Yoda's still keeping it in check, but it's beating everything. Struggling a little bit into Anakin Data Vault, but I don't see anybody playing that, honestly. Sabine Tarkintown, maybe, but matchups are really, really good for Han1 Yellow. The tempo is disgusting. Not only does it shut down your opponent from doing anything, cards like Honey make the deck super fast, super volatile. This deck is hard. If you're not playing Han1 Yellow, you definitely need to be prepared to beat Han1 Yellow. And that's just one of the harder decks in the game right now to beat, especially with its win rate being so high. Also, you could just pray you never see it and it just loses to itself. Maybe a bunch of inexperienced players try to bring Han1 Yellow, so it looks like it's going to be more high represented, but at the top tables, it's nowhere to be found. You can hope for these sort of things, but the deck is just naturally really strong. And making this video now, you have 2 weeks to practice with it. So, get your Han reps in while you can. This deck is a monster, so be careful. The last deck I have in here as a rising S tier contender, yet another Han1, just because I love it. This is very biased. We have Han1 Tarkintown from the Botha Network, from Lego Pizza. This deck is just super spicy. They basically said, what if we take Sabe Tarkintown and just replace Sabe with the better leader, the better yellow leader, and Han Solo. Looking at it, as you can tell, it's literally just a Sabe Tarkintown deck list, or even all odds Han. The only even cards you're running in this deck, you're running Faith in Your Friends, you're running Surprise Strike. Everything else is an odd number. Oh, and then Kira costs 4. So you're getting a lot of bow check value. I mean, it's insane. And it's been doing really good. We're going to be taking a look at the numbers. It's a really cool deck, really fun, very spicy, and I'm a sucker for Tarkintown. What can I say? If you think I might be just biased in my S tier ranking, let me show you why I'm not. We're going to be going to Han Solo Tarkintown. You see that number? 72.5%. This deck is obviously just now coming into the scene. It's beating everything, if not easily, then at a, it's very low serving size, right? We have 69, nice by the way, 69 total matches we're looking at, but it's got a 50-50 matchup in Yoda, 50-50 in the Han2 ECL. It's beating Cad Bane Tarkintown, Han2 Blue Force, Vader, Sabine ECL. We're beating everything. We're not beating blue, but this one you have to take with a grain of salt. I have it in my rising S tier contention because even though it's a new deck, it is exploding onto the scene at a very high rate. Now, if we go into the last 2 weeks, I'm sure this is just going to have the same numbers because it just, the exact same numbers because it just came on the scene a couple weeks ago. This is the last 2 weeks. So, this one can be taken with a grain of salt. Early data does show that it has, very aggressive deck. It has a very punishing build when you're playing against other mid-range decks, and mid-range is very prevalent right now. Very positive early results, but it's still developing. It's extremely dangerous, I'd say. But very much a developing deck, but the numbers are very, very high. Keep it on your radar. 72.5% is insane. And this is the last deck that's going to be making up our S tier. Right below S tier, we have A tier. A tier is going to be basically very strong regional picks. decks that I think are very strong and could easily win regionals. Just I don't have as much hope in them as I do with these first 3, maybe 2.5. I don't know how much faith I have in Han1 Tarkintown. Maybe it's just the flavor of the week, but the numbers are there. You know what I'm saying? The first deck we're going to be talking about in the A tier is Sabine ECL. It's low representation, high efficiency is the name of the game with Sabine ECL. We're good in the mid-range. We're good into the slower Han builds. We're good into control decks, obviously. We can be targeted, especially if you like overplay your hand. Currently, I think it is positioned very well into the meta. What we're going to be taking a look at, obviously, is as a whole, how is Sabine doing in the current meta? Sabine ECL, 53.5% win rate. Not super crazy. Top 6 decks, Yoda DV right at 50. Han2 ECL right at 50. Cad Bane Tarkintown we're losing to, which could be an issue because I feel like Cad Bane Tarkintown could be a popular deck at regionals. We're beating Han2 Blue Force and we're beating Vader Yellow. When it comes to the Han ecosystem, again, 50-50 in the Han2 ECL. Losing the Han1 Green. We're losing to Han1 Yellow. We're beating Han2 Blue. We're beating Han2 Blue Force. So we're losing to Han1, but we're beating Han2 because we're better at racing, obviously. And this is the entire meta. Now, over the last 2 weeks, Sabine Rin has been doing something very interesting, in my opinion. And that is, it's been getting better, which is awesome to see. 56.8% total match win rate. We're beating Yoda. We're beating Han2 ECL. We're losing the Han2 Blue Force now, which is a little odd. We're still losing the Cad Bane, but the number is 35% now, not 33. So a little bit of something there, right? We're beating Vader still at a much higher rate. I think it's just because of the lack of total games, maybe. We've played Vader 8 times and have won 7. Pretty good numbers. Against Han, we're beating Han2 ECL. We're losing the Han2 Blue Force, which is odd. I feel like the matchup was still favored there. Han2 Blue, we're beating at a 50% rate. When it comes to Han1, we are losing to Yellow and losing to Green. So still struggles in the Han1, beats Han2, does really well into the top 6. If you are a great Sabine player, or if you want to have a nice aggro deck to play at regionals, that way you're not sitting around waiting forever, Sabine Rin ECL. She has legs. It's been a long time coming, but Sabine ECL, this is her last big event, pre-rotation. Wouldn't it be nice if the Queen of Aggro placed her final stamp and won the regional? Just saying. It's a deck that I'm going to be looking into in terms of, practice. Maybe it's something I show up with. I haven't played Sabine ECL in a long time. It'd be a fun thing to play, especially because I'm going to be playing limited too. So like if I make day 2 of limited, I won't be able to play the big premiere event. But if I do, maybe I show up with Sabine ECL. Next up in the A tier, Sabine ECL's ugly cousin, Han2 ECL. This deck is still very solid. It's not dominant anymore. And it's still really good. It's still dominant, but not as dominant. It has a reliable spread, very strong tempo. If you've been playing a lot of Han2 ECL, don't get off of it, right? If you're experienced with the deck, keep on going. It's a safe pick. It's not necessarily the best pick anymore, but it's a very safe pick, especially if you've been playing a lot of it. It does some disgusting things. You play 3 drops on 2, you play 4 drops on 3, you play 5 drops on 4, etc. The deck is insanely good, but there are decks that I think are better positioned currently in the meta. But the deck is obviously gross. Blue Leader can be played on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, or turn 4. If that doesn't tell you what this deck does in a nutshell, I don't know what does. But this is deck number 2 to be in my A tier. And we're going to go into the matchups. Han2 ECL across the entire meta has a 58% win rate. It's beating Yoda DV, it ties against itself. It's losing to Cad Bane. It's beating Han2 Blue Force at about a 50% win rate. And we're beating Vader, and we're about 50-50 into Sabine ECL as well. Those are the top 6. Into other Han Solo decks, 50-50 into ourselves, we're beating Han1 Green. We're beating Han2 Blue Force. we are losing the Han1 Yellow, and we're losing the Han2 Blue. Now, this is across the entire meta. This is one of the most played decks in the meta. You know, we're looking at 2,600 games over the entire meta. If we go into these latest 2 weeks and we go Han Solo 2 ECL, very similar win rate. We went from 58 to 58.2. This is, again, you know, we're looking at another 700 games here because this deck is still very widely represented, widely played. Top 6, we are finding to ourselves, obviously, 50-50, smashing Yoda Data Vault, losing to Cad Bane still, losing to Han2 Blue Force, losing to Sabine now, beating Vader. So over the last 2 weeks, Han Solo into like the main meta shared decks, the win rates have been taking a little bit of a hit, right? We're beating Vader and Yoda. We can't, you know, really beat or lose ourselves, right? So, but we're losing to Cad Bane, we're losing to Han2 Blue Force, we're losing to Sabine now. So it's very 50-50 into the top 6 meta decks, into other Han Solo decks, into the Han Solo ecosystem. We're now losing the Han2 Blue Force, we're losing the Han1 Yellow, 50-50 into Han1 Green, we're beating Han2 Blue. I mean, like I mentioned, it's not as dominant as it was. People know what Han2 ECL is shooting for. They know the deck. They know the makeup of the deck. They know what you want to do, and they can better prep for it. Obviously, it still has some auto wins. You're beating every Yoda Data Vault you see, more or less. Obviously, not really, right? Anakin Data Vault, if you see any, you're smashing it. Sabine Yellow, no point in even sitting there. You might as well shake their hand, right? Other control decks, obviously, you smash control decks. Han2 ECL, still a good deck, still in the A tier, but it's just not as OP as it has been. And now we have one more deck in A tier. Spoiler alert, we have S tier, A tier, B tier. All 9 of these decks I think are good, but just at varying degrees. The final deck in A tier. Drum roll, please. I'm just kidding. The last deck in our A tier is Cad Bane Tarkintown, the Meta Punisher. Again, this deck does have some pretty high volatility. It makes a lot of top 8s, but it doesn't win as much as I think it personally could or should. But it's very good into several Han variants, which we're about to take a look at. Capable of doing some deep runs. Obviously, it makes top 8 all the time. Some matchups are going to be rough. Let's take a look at the entire meta. Cad Bane Tarkintown, 52%. Again, I didn't say it was going to be easy, right? Top 6. 40% win rate into Yoda, not spectacular. 60% into Han2 ECL, better, right? Cad Bane into ourselves, 50-50. Obviously, we're beating Han2 Blue Force at a 60% rate. 57% into Vader Yellow. Sabine, we're beating at a 66.7% rate. So basically, really good into anything that's not Yoda when it comes to the top 6. Then we look at the Han Solo ecosystem. When it comes to Han2s, we are beating Han2 ECL, Han2 Blue Forces, and Han2 Blues. Han1, we're losing to Han1 Yellow, and we're losing to Han1 Green. So we're losing to Han1, we're beating Han2s, and we're beating a majority of the top 6 in terms of meta spread. We go into the most recent 2 weeks. Whoops, I spelled Cad terribly wrong. The numbers are getting a little worse. Don't really know why here, though. Again, not super good into Yoda, 45%. Into Han2 ECL, 53%, which I think is a little bit lower. Han2 Blue Force, 68%. Sabine, 64%. Vader, 50-50. But we haven't played much. 14 total games. Cad Bane hasn't been played a whole lot over the last 2 weeks. Only about 450, 460 games. Now we look at the Han Solo ecosystem. We're still beating Han2 ECL, Han2 Blue Force, and Han2 Blue. And to Han1 decks, we are losing to Yellow, and Green is, where'd he go? Bang, right here. So pretty bad. If you think Han1 is on the rise, Cad Bane may need to be put to the side. If you think Han2 is still in the forefront, Cad Bane is an amazing option, which is why I still have him in A tier. The one deck that is going to cause you a lot of troubles is any version of Han1 seems to be a bit of an issue. Yoda Data Vault also. Yoda's just really good at stopping aggro decks, but you know, if you just don't see any Yodas, you'll be fine. Obviously, the Cad Bane Tarkintown deck going around nowadays is not the mid-range deck of old. It is the newer weenie build where you try to open double one drop, double underworld, or underworld plus. The Screeching Tie is really good, so you can turn off Sentinels and Restores. The deck is really solid. And with the top end finishers, Ruthless Vader, Zuckuss, Forlom, and the sideboard, obviously we have a Devastator, we have the new Thrawn unit, we have some Lurky Ties in there. Guys, this deck is really good. Definitely worth testing out, definitely worth taking a look at. Let me know what you guys think of this deck list. This is the final deck list of A tier. We're now moving into B tier. Now, my B tier decks are going to be decks that are strong but meta dependent, and my first one we're taking a look at is Han1 Yellow. This deck is still good, and I think it's primed to make quite a deep run at regionals, but it has some poor aggro matchups. It needs the correct reads for success. It's great in the right field. It's very risky. I would say this is a risky deck to play, but I think it is very, very strong in the right field. And it's a deck that I've been testing out over the last couple of days because this is a strong contender as a deck that I'm personally going to be bringing. And this isn't a typical sample list that I have been linking with all the other ones. This is my personal deck that I've been playing. It's been working really well. So let's take a look at Palpatine, shall we? Over the course of the entire meta, we have a 57% win rate. Total games 750 over the entire meta. Not played a whole ton. Let's look at the top 6. We're beating Yoda DV. We are losing to Han2 ECL. We're beating Cad Bane Tarkintown. We're beating Han2 Blue Force. We're beating Vader. We're losing to Sabine ECL. So we're losing to the two ECL aggro decks, Sabine and Han. Sabine at a much worse rate. If we look at the entire Han Solo ecosystem, Han2s, we're losing to ECL, but we're beating Blue Force and we're beating Blue. Han1, we're losing to Han1 Yellow, and Han1 Green, we're losing to as well. So not the best Han Solo matchups. We're losing to Han1 and we're losing to Han2 ECL, but we're beating Blue and Blue Force, and we're beating the majority of the top 6 meta represented decks. That's not a word. Let's look at the last 2 weeks, shall we? Again, this is 750 games. If we go into the last 2 weeks and we look at Han1 Yellow, we're looking at 200. So 56% win rate, basically on poor. It was 57 or 58. Now it's 56. Top 6 decks. We're beating Yoda. We're losing to Han2 ECL. We're beating Cad. We're beating Blue Force. We're losing to Sabine. We're beating Vader. We're beating Cad Bane. Blah blah blah. Same win rate. If we look at the Han ecosystem, losing to Han2 ECL, we're losing to Han1 Yellow, we're losing to Han1 Green, we're beating Blue Force, we're beating Blue. So exact same spread. The harder matchups are going to be Han1 and the aggro ECL builds of Sabine and Han Solo. But this deck seriously has some legs. And honestly, if you get enough reps in, these ECL matchups are not as bad. Sabine, yes. Sabine is worse than Han Solo, in my opinion, mainly because Han Solo is damaging his units to cheat him out a little bit faster. And you do some ping shenanigans in this deck. And as you can see, the win rate is right at 45%. So if you're one of the Han1 Yellow players that has more reps in the deck, you can take some of these Han2 decks, or Han2 games. You can even take some of the Han1 Green games. But if you get paired up against a Sabine ECL or a Han1 Yellow, those games are pretty rough. But like I mentioned, it's great in the right field, but risky into blind, larger events. If you don't expect a lot of Europeans to come over with Sabine ECL, and you don't expect to see a whole lot of Han, because again, we have been seeing a lot of great success from Han1 Yellow, but it hasn't really been in the field a whole lot. I think Palpatine Yellow is a great idea. I only have him in B tier because obviously it's very risky and some of the matchups are very, very rough. But I think it's a good call. That's why I've been playing a lot of it, obviously. I'm going to not lie to you guys. I've been playing a lot of Han1 Yellow. Han1 Yellow is very high on my list for Premier, and as of right now, I am leaning towards this being the deck I play. The 2 in contention right now are Han1 Yellow and Sabine ECL, because I could be one of those cheeky Americans to bring it. Who knows? But that's deck 1 in our B tier. Deck 2 is going to be right into it. No cuts this time. Han2 Blue Force. Boom, boom, boom. It's a more mid-range, you know, like if you could call control mid-range a thing. It struggles against very fast decks. It's strong, obviously, because it's Han2. Blue Force has always been strong, but it's just not as good as ECL, which is why it's not in the A tier with Han2 ECL. It's in the B tier. It is still a strong deck, but it's very meta dependent. Let's take a look at how Han2 Blue has been doing in the meta. Oops, I got to delete power before I type in Han2 Blue Force. This guy right here. Top 6 meta decks. We're beating Yoda. We're losing to Han2 ECL. We're losing to Cad Bane. We're losing to Sabine. So we're losing to 3, but we're beating Yoda, we're beating Vader, and 50-50 into ourselves. So 50-50 into the top 6, into other Han decks. We are losing to Han2 ECL, and Blue, Han2 Blue, it's here, we're barely beating it. Han1, we're losing to Yellow. Han1, we're beating Green. So 50-50 into Hans, 50-50 into the overall meta. If we go into the last couple of weeks here, 56.3% win rate, beating Yoda. Now we're beating Han2 ECL, losing to Cad Bane, 50-50 to ourselves. We're beating Sabine, we're beating Vader. Over the last couple of weeks, Han2 Blue Force has been getting better. The numbers have been looking better. If the numbers weren't getting better, but were instead either stagnant or getting a little worse, I don't think Han2 Blue would even be in my discussion today in my 9 decks. Into the Han, ecosystem, it's beating Han1 Green, losing to Han1 Yellow. We're now 50-50 into ourselves, obviously, but we're beating Han2 ECL, and we're beating Han2 Blue, about 50-50. I think Han2 Blue has been getting better, slowly but surely creeping up, and I think it has a pretty good shot. B tier, obviously. I don't have it in A tier or S tier, but the deck is strong. You're doing a lot of fun force shenanigans. You're cheating stuff out. You're getting turn 1 Grogu's, turn 1 Marins, and play. Probably never a Marin, honestly. Even an Agado Bogado. I love saying that word. Chirrut coming out of turn early is nice. Kiadi coming out of turn early is nice to draw more cards. We obviously have the Anakin Skywalker since he's a force unit, and because of that we have splashed 3 force lightnings. That way we can turn on Anakin Skywalker. That way he does double trigger instead of just 1. Obviously need hero and villain. We're running Luke Skywalker, Bo-Katan, Crate Dragon, some really solid high end in the deck. Last but certainly not least, the final deck in the B tier. The tried and true Vader4 Yellow is the 9th and final deck we're going to be talking about today, rounding out my B tier index that you should be looking at for regionals and other tournaments you may have coming up. It's good into some control. It's still viable. It's just not a top favorite deck like maybe it once was. I always think it's never been like the top deck, but it's always floated up there, and I feel like it wouldn't have been a good tier list without me mentioning it here today. It can struggle, but it's up there. And we've been talking about Vader a lot today because Vader is one of the decks in the top 6 that we've been having to look at. Now, these numbers are not promising. I understand. 45% in the overall meta. When it comes to the top 6, we're not beating a single one. When it comes to the Han Solos, we're not beating a single one. But this deck always has play. If you look at the last couple of weeks, don't worry, these numbers aren't going to get a whole lot better. But we're 50-50 into Cad Bane. So if you expect a lot of Cad Bane, it's a no-brainer. But honestly, guys, the numbers do look grim with Vader Yellow. But I do honestly still think it's viable. A lot of people still think it's viable. The numbers aren't super promising. Maybe it's cope. Maybe I'm coping and seething and raging. Maybe it's kind of like how all those people are still playing Boba Data Vault, and Piet Red. I just think out of the decks that think they're decks but they're not real decks, it definitely doesn't have a dominating spread, and it struggles, but I think it is still viable. Also, it's an aggro deck at long tournaments. Aggro does have its merits because you're not using a whole lot of brain power. You're not doing a whole lot of thinking. Your games are done early. Go to the bathroom, get drinks, get snacks. A lot less wear and tear on your body physically and mentally playing an aggro deck like Vader4. But obviously, if you're playing an aggro deck, maybe don't play this one. But for my Vader players that are out there that have been playing Vader a lot, that know the lines into the struggling matchups, there is a shot. Do I think it's going to be winning the regional? Out of all 9 decks, this one is obviously at the bottom, but it's there. So the best picks right now, if you do not want to play Han, you want to be looking into Yoda DV, you want to be looking into Sabine ECL, and you want to be looking into Cad Tarkintown. These decks have strong meta spreads, realistic shot, honestly, to win regionals and your store showdowns and PQs and everything. And they have good positioning into the Han ecosystem. We spent all that time talking about how good these decks are, not only into the top 6 meta share, but into the Han ecosystem as a whole. If you don't care about playing Han solo, Han1 Yellow, that's your deck. Han1 Tarkintown is a riser. You may want to keep eyes on it, keep tabs on it, play it out, get some testing in, see how you like it. And if Han1 Tarkintown is just a flavor of the week and it flops off, Han2 ECL, the safest balanced Han variant that we have in the game. Guys, I know this video has been a long one and the format is extremely skill testing and wide open, but the biggest takeaway, if you cannot beat the meta anymore, you need to beat multiple Han archetypes while maintaining a broad matchup stability floor. So the deck's most likely to win the upcoming large events: Han1 Yellow, Sabine ECL, Yoda DV, Cad Bane, the decks we just talked about. Let me know what you're planning to bring to your next regional, Milwaukee, any store showdowns, any PQs. If you like the decks, and if you're playing any of these decks and you have tips, pointers, etc., let people know downstairs in the comments, or using the link in my description, join our Discord and let's talk decks. If you want a full how to beat the Han meta breakdown next, drop a comment. I'm probably not going to be doing that. This may be my last meta video until rotation. I'm probably just going to be doing some theory crafting, deck building for new leaders and all that fun stuff as I practice in the background for regionals. I will be at Milwaukee. If you see me, don't be afraid to say hello. Come up to me, say what up, what up, what up, what up, what up. Do the what up challenge. Do you guys know the what up challenge? What up, what up, what up, what up. If you guys know what the what up challenge is, let me know. But this has been your boy James Making Opening. Thanks for sitting around for the long video. If you made it this far and you made it to the end, comment downstairs. What are we going to do? Hash Brown is the GOAT. Comment that if you made it this far in the video. This has been your boy James Making Opening. I'm exhausted. I'm going to go eat a pizza. Peace.